interested. After all, an estimated 150 million people watched the verdict read live. The event was covered by over 2,000 journalists. Associated Press reporter Linda Deutsch and Mike Walker from the National Enquirer were there on the front lines. Mike also wrote 2 best-selling books about the case, including Nicole Brown Simpson, The Private Diary of a Life Interrupted. And back with us, O.J. Simpson's attorney Yale Galanter and criminal defense attorney Bob McNeil. Okay, Yale, I was sort of asking you questions off camera one of the last times you were here in studio and about somebody else. Well, it was all this information I was getting from Bill Deere. What do you think about his theory?
Well, I don't agree with Bill's theory. There are a couple things that Bill said that I do agree with, and one is that O.J. Simpson definitely did not commit this crime. I don't think Jason committed the crime, and quite frankly, I'm appalled at some of the things he said on live television about Jason, because Jason's not here to defend himself, because most of the things that Bill said are not true.
Like what?
Bill's been, well, I don't want to go into it.
Well, give me an example. What's not true?
Catherine, I do not want to debate with you on this show the culpability or lack of culpability of O.J.'s eldest son. I'm just not going to do that today.
Okay.
But I will tell you that I've looked at a lot of Mr. Deere's material, and it's a bunch of poppycock. I mean, one of the most amazing things that came out of this O.J. verdict 10 years ago is that 10 years later, people are still trying to capitalize on the verdict, still trying to capitalize on his name, and are still trying to make money by doing television appearances, writing books, and trying to make a dollar. And quite frankly, it's appalling. I think it's degrading, and I don't think people should be doing it.
Well, what do you think about a guy, and Bill Deere has had quite a long career, as he said, 40 years in law enforcement, who basically has spent 11 years on this story, and at least he says a considerable amount of his own money, just continuing to pursue this. And he is a guy who basically for $1 will go out and commit himself to finding lost children and doing sorts of things. So, you know, he's got a pretty good background. Why would you spend 11 years and just have, you know, one small book that didn't go anywhere out of it? You think he's crazy?
Catherine, I have told you off camera a number of times that if you spent a day, just one day, an 8-hour period, in my office, we get calls from the Bill Deere types all the time. Everybody has a theory about who did it, why O.J. did it, why O.J. didn't do it. Everybody wants to write a book. Everybody wants me to comment on it. Everybody wants O.J. to comment on it. Everybody wants some validity to their theory. And the most amazing thing is that 10 years later, people are really still interested. It's still the topic of conversation. It's still, you know, office gossip. And it's just one of those phenomenons that's occurred that will be with us forever.
Okay, Bob, what do you think about the theory?
I have to say this, and by the way, hello, Catherine.
Hey there.
I think that William Deere, I mean, it's bold for him to make the accusations, and it seems like he's got some interesting facts. But, you know, the appropriate place to take that type of evidence is the district attorney's office.
Well, he's done that, and apparently they won't listen to him for one reason or another.
Maybe he can go up to Santa Maria and get the DA up there to look. But, I mean, that's the kind of case they love in Santa Maria. But I can tell you this. If, in fact, he has evidence, and by the way, he wouldn't tell us where he found the murder weapon, where he got that from. That would be very interesting.
Well, in fact, I'll tell you what he's told me, and that is that it was in a warehouse that was basically nobody was making payments. The guy who bought the warehouse opened this stuff up and basically called Bill, having read his book, and I think sold it to him. But there were diaries that Bill says have been authenticated as Jason's handwriting, and they're pretty extraordinary because I've read through some of them. I don't know what the deal is, but it seems that he may have had some difficulty, shall we say.
Well, Catherine, no doubt, apparently the O.J.'s son, Jason, had some problems. But, you know, I met O.J. back in the day when O.J. was sitting in a locker room after a great game of football against UCLA back when he was at USC. And I knew him during the period he was married to Marguerite Simpson. But if you look at that period of time, you know, Jason wasn't the kind of person that William Deere has described so far today when he was being interviewed. So I think that if he's got the facts, turn them over to the DA's office. If DA won't do it, take him to the Attorney General. And if he won't do it, take it over to the United States Attorney. And if he's got anything, someone will look at it.
Okay. All right. Let me get you both to sort of take a look back. And Bob, you start, because some people credit the O.J. case with kind of creating legal punditry in this country. What was it like to be called upon sort of day after day after day to basically sit from the sidelines and review the plays?
Catherine, at the time when the case started, I represented the witness, the dream witness. This was the retired police officer, Ron Shipp, who was also a friend of mine, because you know, I had developed a friendship with O.J. back in the days of Marguerite Simpson. But what happened was this: when Ron Shipp testified in the trial, and they asked him, says, "Did you tell anybody else about this dream testimony that O.J. told you he dreamed he killed Nicole?" And he said, "Yes, I did. I told my attorney, Bob McNeil." And Johnny Cochran spoke up, says, "Bob McNeil is down on Washington Boulevard." And Judge Ito said, "Oh, no, Bob's now down on Figueroa Street." And then my phone started ringing off the hook, and it continued for years to come.
All right, well, Yale, what do you think about the ramifications? I have lots of opinions, but I think this case has had a tremendous influence over the last 10 years. Above and beyond, did O.J. do it or not?
Well, a couple things. One, it certainly had a great influence on my life, which I never expected 10 years ago, as you and I have discussed. But, Catherine, the most amazing thing to me is that, you know, you turn on late-night television, they're still making O.J. jokes. You listen to the legal shows, everything's compared to O.J. You know, I heard the other day, I think it was on your show, somebody said they're going to try the O.J. defense. You know, I was in a movie last weekend with my wife, the new Nicolas Cage movie, and they're actually showing the verdict in the movie, and they're commenting about the verdict in a foreign country. It's really become part of Americana that really transcends O.J. the person, O.J. the athlete. It's part of our everyday lives, and I think that's really the most amazing thing, that 10 years later, there's still interest, it's still in the movies, it's still on late-night talk radio, we're still doing programs about it, and that to me is the most amazing impact that this has had.
Well, I think that's absolutely true, and we're going to take a break and come back with more. But before we go, as you know, O.J. Simpson's lawyer, Johnny Cochran, passed away earlier this year, and Johnny definitely knew how to work a courtroom, and although the verdict wasn't popular with everyone, he will certainly be missed.